Principles, Life and Work by Ray Dalio. Picture this. You've built something extraordinary from absolutely nothing. You started in a cramped two-bedroom apartment, and through pure determination and brilliance, you've created one of the world's most successful companies. You're at the absolute peak. Everyone's calling you a genius, a visionary. Then, in one brutal moment, it all crumbles. You make one massive, catastrophic bet, and you're completely wrong, devastatingly, humiliatingly wrong. The market turns against you, and everything you've spent years building teeters on the edge of collapse. You lose so much money that you have to borrow $4,000 from your dad just to keep the lights on. You're forced to let go of the people who believed in you, the team who trusted you. You have failed, spectacularly. This isn't some made-up cautionary tale. This actually happened to Ray Dalio in 1982. He was so convinced of his own brilliance, so certain he was right, that he couldn't see the truth staring him in the face. And that crushing, humbling failure became the most transformative moment of his entire life. It was the moment he discovered that what he didn't know was infinitely more valuable than what he thought he knew. That single, brutal experience became the seed from which this entire book grew. Ray Dalio is the founder of Bridgewater Associates, now the largest and arguably most successful hedge fund in history. But he didn't start with silver spoons or family connections. He was just a regular kid from a middle-class Long Island neighborhood, son of a jazz musician. He was actually a below-average student who despised memorizing facts but absolutely loved figuring things out on his own terms. He started investing at just 12 years old, not because of some master plan, but because he was caddying at a golf course and happened to overhear conversations about the stock market. What you're about to discover isn't just another business book summary. It's the secret operating system that Dalio constructed from the ruins of his greatest failure. It's a collection of timeless rules for living, for making decisions, for leading others, and for building relationships that actually matter. These principles are the reason Bridgewater now manages over $150 billion. They're why Bill Gates said they gave him, quote, invaluable guidance and insights. Here's my promise to you. By the end of our time together, you'll understand the fundamental architecture of that operating system. You'll learn how to see reality in a completely different light, how to transform your biggest failures and most painful moments into your greatest sources of growth, and you'll walk away with a 5-step process for achieving virtually anything you want in life. This isn't just about business success. It's a complete blueprint for continuous learning and evolution. So let's dive in. Where do we begin? We start with the most fundamental question. What exactly is a principle? Imagine you're learning to ski for the first time. Standing on those long, slippery boards, you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. You fall. You scramble back up. You fall again. But gradually, a skilled instructor gives you a few key concepts. Keep your weight forward. Look where you want to go, not down at your skis. Bend your knees. These aren't just narrow instructions for one specific turn on one specific hill. They're concepts you can apply over and over in countless different situations. Those are principles. Ray Dalio argues that life, like skiing or any other complex game, has principles. They're fundamental truths that serve as recipes for successfully dealing with reality. The more you understand them, and the deeper that understanding goes, the more effectively you can navigate your world. But where do these principles actually come from? Dalio is crystal clear about this. The most valuable ones don't come from books or teachers. They come from your own encounters with reality, especially your mistakes. This takes us back to that devastating failure in 1982. After losing everything, Dalio faced a critical choice. He could blame the market, blame the economy, blame anyone but himself. Or he could face the brutal, uncomfortable truth. He was wrong. He chose the truth. He realized that his downfall was his own arrogance, his overconfidence. He had fallen in love with his own opinions and completely ignored reality. That agonizing experience gave him his first and most crucial life principle, which serves as the foundation for everything else in this book. Truth, or more precisely, an accurate understanding of reality, is the essential foundation for producing good outcomes. He calls this being a hyper-realist. This doesn't mean abandoning your dreams, actually it's the opposite. Hyper-realism is the most effective path to achieving your dreams. A dreamer who just imagines wonderful things without understanding reality's laws is like someone trying to fly by flapping their arms. It's a lovely thought, but physics says otherwise. The people who actually change the world, the ones who build airplanes, cure diseases, or create revolutionary companies, are the ones who deeply understand reality and then figure out how to work within its laws to make their dreams happen. So how do we get closer to the truth? How do we embrace reality, especially when it's harsh and uncomfortable? Dalio says it starts with a simple but profound shift in mindset. You need to see that life is like a river, constantly carrying you forward into encounters with reality. You can't stop the river. You can't avoid the encounters. You can only choose how you respond to them. And very often, these encounters arrive in the form of problems, mistakes, and weaknesses. They cause us pain. This is where most of us get stuck. Our natural instinctive response when we feel pain is to either fight back or run away. If someone criticizes us, we get defensive. If we fail at something, we feel shame and try to hide it. We treat pain as something purely negative. But Dalio discovered something transformative in his own failure. He realized that pain is actually a signal. It's nature's messaging system, telling you that you're approaching a limit or that something's wrong. And if you can learn to respond to that signal differently, everything changes. If, instead of fighting or fleeing, you pause and reflect on that pain, you can extract a lesson. You can identify the root cause of the problem and learn a new principle that will prevent you from making the same mistake again. This led him to create what I consider the most powerful equation in the entire book. Pain plus reflection equals progress. Think about the implications of that. Your mistakes, your weaknesses, your most painful moments aren't just things to be endured or pushed through. They're your greatest opportunities to evolve. Every mistake is essentially a puzzle, and if you solve it, you get a gem, a principle that makes you stronger for the future. This idea is the engine of personal evolution. It's not just an inspiring theory, it's a practical process. Dalio observed that the most successful people he knew weren't the ones born with the most talent. They were the ones who excelled at this process of encountering reality, failing, reflecting on that failure, and improving. They understood that wrestling with their problems was the training that strengthened them. This brings us to the first major fork in the road of life, the first of 5 critical choices Dalio says we all face. These choices determine whether we succeed or stagnate. The first choice is this: do you allow pain to block your progress, or do you understand how to manage pain to produce progress? The path of real progress means pushing your limits. Whether you're lifting weights at the gym or facing a difficult conversation, growth happens in that uncomfortable zone. Nature gave us pain to signal we're at our edge, but it also designed us to get stronger by pushing that edge. So when you feel that psychological pain, that sting of a mistake, or the discomfort of criticism, your next move determines everything. The wrong move is to react emotionally, defensively. The right move is to develop an almost automatic habit of reflection, to get curious, to ask, what is this pain trying to teach me? This leads directly to the second critical choice. Will you avoid harsh realities, or will you face them head-on? People who confuse what they wish were true with what actually is true are building their lives on a foundation of fantasy. Their decisions aren't grounded in reality, so they can't possibly anticipate the real consequences of their actions. It's incredibly hard to look directly at our own weaknesses or to admit that a project we love is failing. But refusing to face those realities doesn't make them disappear. It just guarantees they'll bite you later, harder. The most successful people Dalio knows understand that recognizing what's real is the first step toward dealing with it effectively. They constantly ask themselves a deceptively simple question: is it true? Not, do I like it? Not, is it convenient? Just, is it true? Because knowing the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, always gives you power. This brings us to the third choice, and it's especially relevant in our world of social media and constant comparison. Do you worry more about appearing good, or do you worry more about actually achieving your goal? People who are obsessed with looking good are terrified of admitting they don't know something. They hide their weaknesses. They pretend to have all the answers. Even when they're completely lost, they live in constant fear of being exposed. This is a devastating trap. Why? Because if you hide your weaknesses, you can never get help with them. They become your permanent roadblocks. Dalio says he's never met a truly great person who didn't have significant weaknesses. Great people aren't great because they lack flaws. They're great because they know how to deal with their flaws effectively. They're actually eager to discover what they don't know and to identify their weak spots so they can design strategies around them. They understand that the total knowledge and capability available in the world vastly exceeds what any single person could ever possess. So they actively seek to learn from others, especially from people who disagree with them. Take a moment to think honestly. What's your biggest weakness? The one that keeps getting in your way over and over? Writing it down, staring at it, and accepting it is the first step toward making sure it doesn't control your future. Dalio, for example, openly admits he has a terrible memory for details. He can't remember names or phone numbers to save his life. But instead of hiding this weakness, he built systems to compensate, like surrounding himself with people who have excellent memories and using tools and technology to keep himself organized. The fourth choice deals with how we think about consequences. Do you make decisions based on first-order consequences, or do you consider the second and third-order consequences? First-order consequences are the immediate results of an action. Second and third-order consequences are the ripple effects that come later. Often, what feels good in the short term is terrible for us in the long term, and the reverse is also true. The first-order consequence of going to the gym is pain, sweat, and lost time, not particularly appealing. But the second-order consequences are better health, more energy, and improved appearance. The first-order consequence of eating an entire bag of chips is that it tastes amazing. The second-order consequence is that it damages your health. Dalio argues that life constantly throws us these deceptive choices, and it punishes those who only think about immediate gratification. Successful people are able to look past the tempting first-order consequences and push through the painful ones to get what they really want, the positive second and third-order results. They're playing the long game. And finally, the fifth critical choice. Do you blame bad outcomes on others, or do you hold yourself accountable? Blaming others for your failures is essentially wishing that reality were different than it is. It's a complete waste of energy. More importantly, it distracts you from where the real power lies, within yourself. It prevents you from developing the personal strength needed to overcome your challenges. Successful people understand that bad things happen to everyone. Life isn't fair. Nature isn't sympathetic. It's their responsibility to make their lives what they want them to be by successfully dealing with whatever reality throws at them. They understand that whether or not they achieve their goals is ultimately a test of what they're made of. So if you can make the right choices on these 5 fronts, if you can manage pain constructively, face reality squarely, prioritize goals over appearances, think long-term, and hold yourself accountable, Dalio believes you can achieve almost anything you want. He says this all comes down to one quality: character. Character is the ability to make yourself do the difficult things that produce the results you want. Now, this might sound inspiring in theory, but how do you actually do it? This is where Dalio introduces a powerful mental model. He says you need to start thinking of yourself as 2 different people. There's you, the doer, the one in the trenches, executing the daily tasks. And then there's you, the designer and manager, the one looking down from a higher level, creating the plan and overseeing the whole operation. Let's call them manager you and doer you. To be successful, manager you has to be completely objective about doer you. Imagine you're managing a basketball team, and your goal is to win a championship. Doer you is one of the players on that team. Now, let's say doer you is absolutely terrible at 3-point shots. Would it make any sense for manager you to put doer you in the game, to take the final, game-winning 3-pointer? Of course not. That would be absurd. You'd lose the game and fail to achieve your goal. As the manager you has to be brutally honest about doer you's weaknesses. If doer you isn't the right person for a specific task, manager you's job is to find someone who is. In real life, this means you need to step back and look at yourself objectively. If you're terrible with details, you need to find a system or a person to help you with details. If you're not a creative thinker, you need to collaborate with people who are. The biggest mistake most people make, Dalio argues, is that they can't see themselves and others objectively. Their ego interferes. They get so attached to being the one who does everything that they can't make the logical choice to step aside when they're not the best person for the job. If manager you discovers that doer you is bad at something, manager you shouldn't be disappointed. Manager you should be thrilled. Why? Because you've just discovered crucial information that improves your chances of getting what you want. You've identified a weakness in your machine, and now you can fix it. This concept of the machine is central to Dalio's thinking. Your machine is the system you build to achieve your goals. It's made up of 2 parts: the design, the plan, the workflow, and the people, including you and anyone else helping you. Your goals determine what kind of machine you need to build. That machine produces outcomes. You then compare those outcomes to your goals. This is the feedback loop. If the outcomes don't match your goals, you know something's wrong with your machine, and you need to adjust either the design or the people. This continuous process of setting goals, building a machine, checking the outcomes, and then improving the machine is how you evolve and get what you want. This brings us to the heart of Dalio's practical advice, his 5-step process for getting what you want out of life. This is the recipe, the step-by-step guide that puts all these ideas into action. Step 1. Have clear goals. This sounds simple, but it's often the hardest part. You have to decide what you really want. Dalio says life is like a giant buffet with more delicious options than you could ever taste. You have to reject some good things to get the things you want more. You can have virtually anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. So you have to prioritize. And it's crucial here not to confuse goals with desires. A goal is something you truly want to achieve, like being physically fit. A desire is often a first-order temptation that can prevent you from reaching your goal, like the desire to eat unhealthy but delicious food. Goals are good. Desires that undermine your goals are bad. Also, and this is important, when you're setting your goals, don't worry yet about whether you think you can achieve them. Just decide what you want. The how comes later. Great expectations create great capabilities. If you only set goals you already know you can reach, you'll never stretch yourself and discover your true potential. Step 2. Identify and don't tolerate the problems that stand in your way. Once you have your goals, you'll start moving toward them. And on that path, you will inevitably encounter problems. These problems aren't just obstacles, they're opportunities screaming at you. Most problems are potential improvements in disguise. The key is to bring them to the surface. Most people don't like doing this. It's uncomfortable to look at harsh realities. It's easier to pretend the problem doesn't exist. But successful people know they have to do this. You have to be a precise and honest problem finder. Don't just say, people don't like me. Be specific, which people don't like me, and in what situations. The more precise you are, the easier it will be to solve. And once you identify a problem, you cannot tolerate it. Tolerating a problem is the same as not identifying it. It ensures you'll never move past it. Step 3. Accurately diagnose the problems to get at their root causes. This is where you become a detective. It's not enough to know you have a problem. You need to understand why. Most people make a huge mistake here. They jump straight from identifying a problem to trying to find a solution. They skip the diagnosis entirely. This is like a doctor prescribing medicine without figuring out what illness you have. It's a recipe for failure. You need to get to the root cause. Proximate causes are the superficial reasons for a problem. For example, I missed the train because I didn't check the schedule. That's a proximate cause. To find the root cause, you have to keep asking why. Why didn't I check the schedule? The answer might be, because I'm forgetful. That, forgetful, is a description of what you're like. That's a root cause. Diagnosing root causes requires you to look at yourself and others objectively. And this is often where ego becomes the biggest barrier to progress. It's painful to admit that the root cause of a problem might be one of your own weaknesses. But, as Dalio says, more than anything else, what differentiates people who live up to their potential from those who don't is their willingness to look at themselves and others objectively. This is where you have to embrace the pain of growth. Remember, pain plus reflection equals progress. Step 4. Design a plan that will get you around your problems. Once you have an accurate diagnosis, you can start designing a solution. This is like writing a movie script. You visualize who will do what and when to achieve the goal. You're creating a new path that navigates around the root cause you identified. If the root cause was that you're forgetful, your plan might involve setting automatic reminders on your phone, using checklists, or asking a more organized person to help you stay on track. You're changing your machine to produce a better outcome. It's important to write this plan down. Who needs to do what and by when? This transforms a vague idea into a concrete set of tasks. It's an iterative process. You might sketch out a broad plan, then fill in the details, and then realize you need to adjust the plan. The goal is to create a realistic story that connects your present to your desired future. Step 5. Implement these plans and push through to completion. This final step is about execution. A brilliant plan with no action goes nowhere. This requires self-discipline. It requires good work habits. You need a clear to-do list and the determination to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. This 5-step process isn't a straight line, it's a loop. As you execute your plan, you'll get new information. You might encounter new problems. This will lead you to refine your diagnosis, adjust your design, and even modify your goals. It's a continuous cycle of evolution. You set a goal, you fail, you learn, you improve. Then you set a higher goal, and the process repeats. This is how you get stronger and move toward what you want at an accelerating pace. So to summarize this powerful framework: 1. Have clear goals. 2. Identify problems that stand in your way. 3. Diagnose the root causes of those problems. 4. Design a plan to get around them. 5. Do what's in the plan to achieve your goals. Dalio stresses that you don't have to be excellent at all 5 of these steps yourself. Almost no one is. Some people are brilliant at setting big-picture goals, but terrible at executing the details. Others are fantastic at executing tasks, but lack vision. The key is knowing your own weaknesses. If you're bad at a certain step, you must find a way to compensate, either by learning, using tools, or, most powerfully, by collaborating with others who are strong where you're weak. This brings us to how these life principles translate into the world of work and management. The second half of Dalio's book focuses on his management principles, but as he explains, they're simply his life principles applied to running an organization. The core idea is exactly the same. An organization, just like an individual, is a machine designed to achieve a goal. And the 2 most important parts of that machine are its culture and its people. If you get those 2 things right, the organization can navigate any challenge. At Bridgewater, the culture is built on 2 pillars: radical truth and radical transparency. Radical truth means people say what they honestly believe. It's about creating an environment where the relentless pursuit of truth matters more than anyone's feelings. This means constant, open, and honest feedback. Criticism isn't seen as a personal attack. It's seen as an exploration of what's true and a tool for improvement. Radical transparency means giving people as much access as possible to what's really happening. At Bridgewater, almost all meetings are recorded and made available for anyone in the company to watch. Why? Because it builds trust, holds people accountable, and allows everyone to see the reasoning behind decisions for themselves. It eliminates the toxic office politics that thrive on secrets and backroom conversations. In this kind of culture, you can't talk about someone behind their back. Dalio has a simple rule: never say anything about a person you wouldn't say to them directly. If you do, he says you're a slimy weasel. This forces all issues out into the open, where they can be debated, analyzed, and resolved based on merit, not on hierarchy. This creates what he calls an idea meritocracy. In an idea meritocracy, the best ideas win, regardless of where they come from. It doesn't matter if the idea comes from a senior manager or a brand new intern. All ideas are stress-tested in the open. Of course, this doesn't mean all opinions are treated as equally valuable. Dalio introduces the concept of believability. A person's believability is determined by 2 things: their track record of success in that specific area, and their ability to explain the reasoning behind their conclusions. When making decisions, you should weigh the opinions of more believable people more heavily. This prevents the best ideas from getting drowned out by the noise of uninformed opinions. It's not a democracy, it's a meritocracy. The second part of a great machine is great people, and for Dalio, hiring is one of the most important things a leader does. He says you should weigh a person's values and natural abilities much more heavily than their skills. Skills can be taught. Values and innate abilities, like creativity or common sense, are much harder to change. What values does he look for? A drive for excellence, a commitment to truth at all costs, and a high sense of ownership. Most importantly, he looks for people who are willing to look at themselves objectively and have the character to push through discomfort. He doesn't just hire people to fill a job. He says you should hire people you want to share your life with. You're embarking on a long shared mission, so you need the right people on the bus with you. To help with this, Bridgewater uses extensive personality testing and maintains what Dalio calls baseball cards for employees. These cards show a person's stats, their strengths, their weaknesses, their values, their ways of thinking. This isn't done to label people, but to understand them. It helps ensure you're putting the right people in the right roles, where their strengths can shine and their weaknesses won't cause problems. Managing people in this system is like being a ski instructor. You have to be right there on the slopes with them, giving constant real-time feedback. You're not micromanaging by telling them exactly what to do. And you're not abandoning responsibility by leaving them completely alone. You're constantly in a dialogue, comparing outcomes to goals, and working together to improve the machine. When a problem occurs, you must have the discussion on two levels. First, the case at hand. What do we do about this specific problem right now? But more importantly, you must have the machine-level discussion. Why did the machine produce this bad outcome? Was the design flawed? Was the person in the role the wrong fit? This ensures you're not just fixing one-off problems. You're continuously improving the system so those problems don't happen again. This entire system, the five-step process, the idea meritocracy, the focus on radical truth and transparency, is designed to accomplish one thing: accelerate the pace of evolution. Whether for an individual or a company, the goal is to get on a steep upward trajectory of learning and improvement. The more mistakes you identify, diagnose, and learn from, the more feedback loops you complete, and the faster you evolve. Ultimately, Dalio's message is one of profound empowerment. He believes that the barriers to success aren't your innate abilities. You don't have to be the smartest or most talented person to get what you want. The biggest barrier is almost always your own ego, your reluctance to face your weaknesses and mistakes. If you can suspend that ego, if you can adopt a no-excuses approach to achieving your goals, if you can be open-minded, determined, and courageous, and if you can rely on the help of others who are strong where you're weak, then there's almost nothing you can't achieve. Life, he says, is a game. Your mission is to navigate your challenges to reach your goals, and in the process of playing that game, you'll become more and more skilled. So what do we take away from all of this? When you first encounter Ray Dalio's world and his principles, it can seem intense, even extreme. Radical truth? Radical transparency? Recording meetings? It sounds like a tough environment, and honestly, for many people it is. But I think focusing only on the intensity misses the profound and deeply humane message at the heart of this book. At its core, Principles isn't about building a hedge fund. It's about building a life. It's a guide to personal evolution. What Dalio has created is a systematic way to become a better version of yourself, day by day, mistake by mistake. The most powerful lesson, for me, is the reframing of pain and failure. We live in a culture that glorifies success and hides failure. We're taught from a young age that making mistakes is bad. Dalio completely flips this on its head. He teaches us to embrace our mistakes, to see them not as indictments of our character, but as gifts, as opportunities to learn and grow. That single idea, if you can truly internalize it, is genuinely life-changing. It gives you the freedom to try things, to be bold, and to not be paralyzed by the fear of being wrong. The second major takeaway is the power of humility. Here's a self-made billionaire, one of the most successful investors of all time, and his entire philosophy is built on the idea of knowing what you don't know. His process is designed to combat his own overconfidence. It forces him to seek out the smartest people he can find, especially those who disagree with him, and to rigorously stress test his own thinking. This is such a powerful lesson in a world that often rewards loud, confident opinions over thoughtful, humble inquiry. True confidence doesn't come from believing you have all the answers. It comes from knowing you have an excellent process for finding the best answers. So, how can you begin to apply these massive ideas to your own life right now? You don't need to build a multi-billion-dollar company to start. Here are 3 simple actions you can take today. First, start what I call a principle journal. Tonight, before you go to bed, think about one mistake you made today. It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe you procrastinated on your homework, or said something you regret to a friend. Write down the mistake. Then, diagnose it. Ask why, a few times, to get to the root cause. Was it a lack of discipline? A fear of failure? Then write down one simple principle that could help you avoid that mistake in the future. For example, when I feel the urge to procrastinate, I will work for just 5 minutes. After that, I can stop if I want to. Do this every day, and within a year you'll have built your own personal set of principles based on your own encounters with reality. Second, practice asking the question, is it true? The next time you're facing a difficult situation or experiencing a strong emotion, just pause and ask yourself that. Am I really not good enough, or is that just a feeling? Is this person's criticism really an attack, or is there some truth in it that I can learn from? This simple question serves as an anchor that can pull you out of emotional reactivity and ground you in reality, which is always the most powerful place to be. Third, find one believable person in your life. This is someone who has a great track record in an area where you want to improve. It could be a teacher, a coach, a family member, or a friend. Go to them with one specific challenge you're facing and ask for their honest feedback. Don't just ask for their conclusion. Ask for their reasoning. Try to understand how they think. This is the first step toward building your own personal board of advisors and learning to deal with not knowing. That was the book summary of Principles, Life and Work by Ray Dalio. We've certainly covered the highlights today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary can only ever be the map. It can never be the journey itself. The real magic in a book like this happens in those quiet moments when you're reading, when a particular story or simple phrase hits you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time and attention. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something in you, if it's resonated with some challenge you're facing, then I truly encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a new set of ideas. It's an experience that can genuinely change the operating system you use to navigate your life. A link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. There's so much wisdom out there, and I believe that by exploring it together, we can all keep growing. Thank you for listening. Let's keep moving forward.